Hi, James Vasari here. I'm getting ready to wire up my show, and figured I'd show you how we wire up our frames and paintings to get them to hang on the wall. So I've got my gear all set out. Got quite a bit of hanging gear because as artists we do all our own hanging and stuff too sometimes. You can pay to have a professional to wire your stuff up so it doesn't fall off the wall, but there are a few simple tricks and you can do it yourself. Got all kinds of gear over the years that I use. This is actually off of restoration. I wanted to show you this is an old wire off of actually a museum piece that I restored. But you can see it's just a piece of wire, hanging wire. That this is how everybody does it. Yeah, nice frayed end. But you can get these in the store. The wires come in little packs, look like this, and they'll tell you how much weight each wire can hold. So there's a wire here, and here's some wire that I use. It's a little thinner, a little less weight it can hold. And this is what I'm working with now, and it says that it'll hold up to 43 pounds of a painting and frame. A lot of times the painting itself doesn't weigh a whole lot, but once you get a heavy frame on there, the frames that they sell nowadays, you can get some super heavy frames, and you're going to want something a little more sturdy. This is not coated wire. This is just straight wire, and this is what I kind of recommend using is the plastic coated wire. And you can see it's got a plastic coating on it. Can you see it? Let's see if this thing will focus for you. So you see, it's got a really thin plastic coating or nylon coating around it, so that it doesn't rust. It doesn't get any of the moisture in it. Also, the other thing I have are eye screws. All these different eye screws, different sizes. The big ones, I mean, those suckers could probably hold daggone 50 pounds. And then the little ones, down around 10, 15, 20 pounds. I've got a variety, different sizes that'll hold different weights. And if I go with a D-ring, okay, so these are the eyelets, and these are D-rings. I know it looks like a triangle, but we call it a D-ring. And the little black ones are for little tiny paintings, the 5, 10 pound paintings. And then again, they get heavier. An assortment of screws. Definitely don't want to have a screw go through your painting or all the way through your frame. So these I don't get to use so much unless I'm doing something gigantic. And these are more of what I use on everyday projects. So you can see the different sizes. It's a number 6 1/4 inch, and I like to use the pan head because they're not gonna strip anything up, scratch anything up against the wall. So although they say metal on them, I use them in my wood strictly because they're pan heads, which means that it's got that curved head to it that instead of flat or pointy, so it kind of stands up off the wall. Here's some heavy duty wire. This stuff will probably hang something, no kidding, 100 pounds worth. So you can see I've got some of that left, and then basic tools to screw them in or pound them in or twist them in. Once we put the D-ring on, this is how I've fixed this D-ring with some uncoated wire. All right. This D-ring is in this is actually a custom frame that my brother made. It's solid oak. So if you're drilling into something that's solid oak, you're gonna have to pre-drill. So get your drills out and match it with your screws, and I'll have to show you that some other day. But you can see that's just drilled straight in there, and This one here came from the factory. You see how nicely they have it all buttoned up there, twisted up, tied up, and held together. You can see that they've also used just that's a steel screw. So, and this is still called the D-ring. All right. Same thing here, D-ring. This came with the frame, and so I know that it's rated for the frame. So you can see how heavy duty that is, and the frame maybe weighs 20 pounds. I don't know. And this is my kind of a hairy looking wire job with the wires all sticking out. And what we have a tendency to do with those, if we have the wires all fraying, is so that we don't get stuck or whatever in our thumbs, just take a piece of blue tape and it's kind of hard to do with one hand. You just tape it around there any way you can. And this actually I do if I have a show that somebody else is hanging, just out of courtesy to the hangers, so that they don't get, see that's all taped up there, so that you can't get this. See that little sucker there? Man, does that hurt when you get that in your finger. So I just take and cover it up with a little bit of painter's tape to clean up the ends and make sure nobody's getting stuck. And then this is this wire here, I mean, this reminds me of speaker wire. It's so coated. And you can see that if I didn't knot it all up like this and do it real well like this, you got to knot that stuff up, because if that stuff comes untied, you can see it slides here, and I just got frustrated with it and tied the heck out of it in any way I could, because I don't want it to come off the wall. So you got to tie that sucker up so it doesn't slide out. Now this is a piece of nylon ribbon. I thought it was really super cool because A, it's lightweight, B, you can get like all kinds of length of it in a reel. Of course, it comes just like a piece of ribbon. And then the clips that come with this set clip straight into the backing instead of onto the frame. The only problem is when I cut them really short, if there's any tension on them, because they're nylon, they'll pull out just like that plastic stuff. So real quick, what I'm looking at is it's a little bit of physics, of course, with the weight of the wire and the rings and what they're going to hold, and also with the wood on your frame. Now these, I showed you a few that they're fixed straight to the frame, which is where you want to go if you have a frame. If you're framing it, put the wire on the frame. Don't mess with the painting if you don't have to. Just leave the painting alone. You don't want a whole bunch of holes in your painting and such. That's not necessary. Plus, the weight of the frame is so much more than the weight of the painting. You don't want the weight of the frame warping the actual painting. So another word on warping is that being carpentry and physics, this piece of wood is going to want to bow more this way than it will ever bow this way, just because of the thickness of the wood. So you want to have the pull, the physical pulling that's done by the wire to pull along the wide side of the wood frame of the canvas, the canvas bars. Now you can see this is another canvas that is specifically, it's gallery wrapped, which means I don't need to put a frame on it. The wrap goes all the way around, and so I've got my stretcher bars, the pieces of wood that is, and they're really thick, really nice, and I can get an eye screw right in here. Okay, so when I'm framing without a frame, I use the eye screws. When I'm framing with a frame, I use the D-rings. All right, just because of the space that I have with it, and the eye loops go well on here on the wider 2-inch frame stretcher bar right on the inside. This one I'm going to show you because this is also a gallery wrapped frame, a gallery wrapped canvas. So it really doesn't need a frame, technically. I would probably pop it in a frame. It depends on how it looks on the wall, and then frame it with the frame, wire to the frame. But here, these are thinner than the 2-inch, and so the trick is going to be getting this up on edge and getting my eyelet in there without busting up the wood. So these frames are pine. No pre-drilling needed. You don't need to pre-drill your pine, but when you get into any of the other woods, my brother works with some exotic woods that it's like, it'd be like trying to get a screw into a piece of steel. It's just not gonna work. So let me show you really quickly. Hopefully I can show you this and you can see it. I'm just going to take my hammer, right? I've got a bunch of eyelets, and this is a very light frame, very light painting. So I'm going to use some of my smaller eyelets. And you can see that these are actually a little bit less duty than these. So these are heavier duty than these. So these are about the lightest that I have. I'm going to take these guys, and what I'm going to do, you can get a measuring device if you want, you know, take your ruler out and measure it out and see exactly how far it is. These are 18s tall. What I'm looking for, and this is pretty important, is you want to have your eye screws, or whatever it is, your D-rings, your eye screws, you want your wire to connect to the frame inside the top third of the piece. So being that it's 18 divided by 3, 6. So here's 6, here's 6, here's 6. This first 6, so the first 1/3 of the painting, that's about where I want to hang the wire. Don't hang it any lower; it'll start to flop off the wall and come forward on the wall. So about 1/3 down the painting, and I've done it so frequently that I just use the screwdriver length and go like, okay, 1, 2, 3, you know, okay, so right about in here. All right, so I know where my D-ring's going to go. Make a little mark there. That's all I did. Just poke it with the D-ring itself, and you can see that the pine is so soft that I can actually push it in there. Now, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get these in here, thinking about tensile strength and which way the wire is going to hang, and make it easy for the wire not to get all caught up on my D-rings. It's pretty simple. I'm going to put this one straight in. I'm not going to try to hang it this way or up this way. It's just the fact of the matter is that the threads are going to have to hold the weight of this painting. So these threads are all that's going to hold this eyelet onto this stretcher bar. So if I'm looking at this and thinking like, well, those are definitely going to pull out. Maybe I want to go somewhere else with a heavier thread. But these I think will do. So all I'm going to do is at about my 3rd mark. All right, I'm going to get it in there. Sort of straight, eh? I can take my hammer. I want to make sure that I'm not going all crooked across the wood because that might split the wood. Just take a little bit of this. And a little tap and push, get it started. What I can do is lay it down, hold it with a pair of needle nose pliers, just as I get a good tap on it, right? and then start slowly turning that guy in there. So first couple of turns real slow, and then you can tighten it down to where it's flush, nearly flush to the wood. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to measure generally how far that down. All right, right here. My eye screw. A couple of taps. Get it started. Oops, or not. Maybe I've got a big enough hole in there now to get her turning, and it'll seat itself. Let's see. Vince always likes to help with this because of the wire. He likes to play with the wire. I'm just going to turn this in until I can't turn it anymore and it's flush up against the wood. Or nearly flush. She's down in there. So she's down in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire. Got 100 feet of this stuff, so I'm going to take my wire and across. Yeah, you can't be real cheap with it. You're going to end up using a lot of wire on the ends. And I just measure it out here. All right. And I know I'm going to go about 6 inches to almost a foot worth over the length. So if I were to measure it out, it's going to be about 6 inches longer than the actual canvas. Okay. So once I'm out here, then I can go ahead and tie my end. Standard knot, and then you go the other way for the slip knot deal. Alright. And then we just keep on tie a knot, tie a knot, and get your pliers on it and pull them tighter if you want. Wrap them around, wrap them around, wrap them around, and this is generally how I like to do it. You wrap it around 6 or 7 times, push it down, tighten it up, and then get one last tie at the end. Get them in there. One last tie at the end. Push them all down. Not super pretty, but then we come on over to the other side. The point of no return. And I take a look at my wire and I try to see how far up the painting is it going to go. I got to remember my hook's going to be back here. My hanging hardware on the wall is going to be back here. I want all that hidden back here. So I don't want it any higher than this. All right. I'm going to come here. This is where my wire attaches. See how long my wire is, and then I'm going to come out here and give myself at least, I don't know, what, 6-10 inches. Snap it off. And I've got a couple of different cutting tools, and this one I like. That's just what I always use. So once it's in there, thread them through, frontward or back, it doesn't matter. Double check the height of my wire, and see it's got a crimp in it now. So right there at the crimp, I want to make sure my wire stays at that crimp. 2 knots. Wrap it around. Wrap it back on itself, or tie it. You can put a that's too much. You can put a piece of tape around it if you want. Help try to keep it in place. But a couple of knots on there is really the way to go. And definitely, if you're not gonna knot it, at least wrap it back on itself. You can see how that wire I've just wrapped back on itself. So, and once you're done with all that, so you see the wire itself is hung to where the hardware on the wall is not going to show behind it, because you've got that hook, and that hook's going to come up to about here with your nail in it in the wall. And when you flip it over, you don't want that showing, of course. So what I'm going to show you, where I took the other one off the wall, put this one back on the wall, and just a little hook here. And like I said, we had to figure out, make sure that the hook isn't going to show on our painting. And voila, there's one for the books. All right, so that's it. It's wiring our paintings. Took a while, but it's how we do it. All right, see you next time.